What's good, Conscious Collab? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be taking a look at these mind-blowing, real stories regarding reincarnation and deja vu. Has something ever stopped you dead in your tracks and you instantly felt that you've seen or even been in a certain place before? Did it feel like a reoccurring event? Have you ever wondered what happens to souls when they leave this earth? Do they come back in trees, people, as animals, or, as the church folks say, present with the Lord? Let's take a look at these videos and tell me what you think for yourself. Let's go.
Have you noticed when experiencing with deja vu that the longer you hold out saying this is deja vu, the longer the vision will be? Just try it. The next time you feel like you're experiencing a deja vu and you're around people, don't say deja vu and watch how longer the vision is. Because I feel like whenever we say this is deja vu out loud, we're looking for some type of confirmation from everyone to acknowledge the fact that we're internally experiencing something that they could possibly not understand, because that vision came to you and it's letting you know that you're going on the right path in life. At least that's what I think deja vu means. It's a series of familiar events that come to you just to let you know that you're going in the right path in life. So whenever you experience deja vu, refrain for saying deja vu out loud and watch how long that vision is. I promise you, it'll be longer than you expected from previous times you have deja vus. Watch.
Oh, nice.
Parents will tell you kids say and do the darndest things.
We used to laugh and call him an old man.
Quirky and cute, says Erica Ruhlman, that her 2-year-old son Luke seemed obsessed with safety in and around their suburban Cincinnati home.
Very cautious about like crossing the street, anything that might be hot or dangerous or high.
And then there was that other fixation.
I think I specifically asked him, why did you name the ladybug Pam? And he said, I just think it's a nice name.
Soon everything was Pam, with increasingly peculiar comments.
He used to say when I was a girl I had black hair, or he'd say, I used to have earrings like that when I was a girl.
The stay-at-home mom wondered, where was he getting these ideas? Luke's answer changed their lives forever.
I was like, who is Pam? You know, out of frustration. And that's when he turned to me and looked at me and said, well, I was. And I was like, what do you mean you were? And he was like, well, I used to be, but I died and I went up to heaven. I saw God. And then eventually God pushed me back down. And when I woke up, I was a baby and you named me Luke.
Now she was really confused.
She called me and said, you know, something weird is going on.
Erica's mom, Lisa Trump, remembered a book she'd read in the 70s by the late Dr. Ian Stevenson, who clinically studied past life claims.
We started to realize that perhaps we did actually have something there.
But with a terrifying twist.
So I decided to go ahead and ask him further, do you remember how you died? And he looked right at me and said, well, yeah, it was a fire. And at that point, he made like a motion with his hand, like he was jumping off of a building.
A tall building in a big city where Luke said he walked a lot and took the train.
I was like, you sure it's Chicago? He said, yes, I remember it was Chicago, it was Chicago.
Erica plugged the information into the internet.
And that's when I came across the Paxton Hotel.
The Paxton Hotel, a residential building in a predominantly African-American Chicago neighborhood.
You know, just asked him, I was very casual about it, like, Lukey, what color was Pam's skin? And he just looked right up at me like, duh, black.
In March 1993, a massive fire raced through the property, trapping most residents. 19 died, including a woman in her 30s named Pamela Robinson.
Pam had jumped out of a window to her death. I was really kind of weirded out by it at this point.
And it was about to get stranger. While working with the documentary show Ghost Inside My Child on the Lifetime Movie Network.
You want to look at these pictures?
Erica and Luke's dad decided to put the now 5-year-old to the test.
I had found a picture of Pam, and we had put it on a sheet of paper with a bunch of fake pictures.
What's familiar mean?
Like, you know, I didn't really think that he was going to pick the right one.
But with the cameras rolling,
I know someone I can recognize.
But I remember when this one was taken, and he pointed to the correct one.
So Pam.
took me a couple days to wrap my head around it. I couldn't sleep. I thought about it constantly.
They say immediately their thoughts turned to Pam's family still in Chicago. We reached out to them. They said no comment at this time. However, a family member did speak with Erica, and she says she discovered even more similarities.
I know that Pam was a big Stevie Wonder fan, and Luke really likes that era of music. She played the keyboard a lot, and one of the things that Luke, his favorite toy at the time, was this little tiny piano that he would tote around with him.
And just as Erica was becoming truly connected with Pam's memory, Luke let her go.
It's like he got it all out, he was finished, and he had nothing more to say about it.
But the family continues to share their journey with anyone who will listen, not seeking fame or fortune.
We didn't receive any money for the show.
They tell Luke's story because they say it's a message that needs to be told.
It's a positive one. It is one of unification. It is one of love.
I think it tells us that we shouldn't define the soul by race or gender out of the mouth of babes.
So y'all, a couple days ago, I had went viral because I told a story about my daughter and a past life recall story that she was telling me about. And in a nutshell, the story was about her missing her mother in her past life and that energy visiting her in her dreams often. And she would tell me about her dog and her father. And looking at the comments, I realized that more often than not, children are recalling their past life because they're closer to the divine. So it's literally like 4,000 comments of other parents sharing their stories about their children. And after doing some research, I found out in African countries, more often than not, when an ancestor passes away, they show themselves to the youngest born in their family. So they come to that child by way of dreams and intuitive messages to bear a message for the family. And they do that because the child can perceive them and perceive the message. And that is not abnormal in their culture. What are we missing here in this Western-ass country?
When they die, they don't know they're dead. And these are like the ones who are the murderers, the drug addicts, the alcoholic, the very negative people. And they're so confused because they have died in this kind of a condition that they keep trying to get back into bodies, which you cannot do. And what they're trying to do is get the same sensations they had through osmosis. Hanging around people who are drinking or who are on drugs or who are killing people in back alleys, trying to get the same sensations and pleasures they had when they were alive. After a while, it's like, this is boring. At that point, they look around and they see the one who has been sent to take them on. They said, are you ready to go now? And so they'll go with them. And they're always met with great love, because they know they just went down a wrong path. And all they have to do is, they have to go to schools, they have to take lessons on that side so they can be ready to come back again. You come back too soon, you're not ready, because it's that negativity will carry over.
Okay, only got 3 minutes, so I gotta make this story as quick as possible because I don't want to do a part 2. So my daughter comes up to me the other day, right? And this was sitting on my dresser or something because, I have jeans and this came off as a tag. So she comes up and she grabs the picture and she goes, this is my mommy. I miss her. So I'm looking at the picture like, what? Because obviously this isn't me. So she goes, I said, so how many, what? I'm your mommy. How many mommies have you had? And she goes, 2. You mommy and that mommy. So now I'm like, okay, maybe my child's having a past life regression. So I'm digging deeper. I want to know. And she goes, I said, so what happened to that mommy? She said, well, that mommy and the Batman were in a car. And when they were in the car, they hit a really big rock. And then mommy jumped out, hurt her feet, and went to the police officer. And when she went to the police officer, she told the police officer about the Batman. And then mommy went to the doctor, and mommy's eyes closed. I said, so what happened when mommy's eyes closed? She said she was dead. I said, okay, so where were you whenever your mommy's eyes closed? She said, I was in her belly. I said, so what happened then? She said, the water started blinking. I said, okay, so what happened after that? She said, I was standing right here by mommy and I saw the snakes in her belly and then I saw you. I said, okay. I said, so what was I doing? She said, she said, you were sick. She said, your throat was hurting and you were really sad. I said, okay, so once I was really sad, then what happened? She said, I was in your belly. I said, okay, so once you were in my belly, then what? I said, why did you choose me to be your mommy? She said, yeah. I said, why? I asked her, I said, did you choose to come into my belly? She said, yes. I said, so why did you choose to come into my belly? She said, because I loved you. I said, okay, now rewind back because I forgot to tell y'all this part. This freaked me out. Like, this made me really like, so I asked her, I said, how old was your mommy then? She said, 49. I said, 49? My child is 3 and can't count past 20. Like, once she gets to 20, she goes 25, 6. Like, her mind doesn't comprehend how to say 22, 23. So for her to say 49, I was like, and she said it confidently. Y'all. Oh, and I also asked her, I said, so where did mommy hit the rock? She said, I said, what was around? What was on the ground? Was there trees? She said, no, there was nothing. Desert?
You ever heard about the aliens that contacted us in 1981 trying to tell us how to stop reincarnating as humans over and over and over again? You're foolish. That's what I thought too, until I heard the full story. In 1981, Carla Rucker, who was a girl from Kentucky, began receiving telepathic contact from a group of entities calling themselves Ra. According to Rucker, these were the stick with me, the collective consciousness from a higher dimension of the planet Venus. They evolved 2.6 billion years ago into a higher dimension, and they came back to give us information and to tell us how to stop reincarnating and much more. Then over the next couple years, they kept this contact going, and there was 3 of them. There was Carla herself, there was Don, then there was also Jim wrote down everything. Don was the one asking questions. It was kind of written in a Q&A format, and because they were asking questions to this entity, but the entity was actually talking through Carla. And all of these conversations they actually put into a book series, actually I think 4 or 5 books, and it's called The Law of One. So what you're saying is she got possessed. I wouldn't say she was possessed because she had a Bible at her head in order to make contact with them. And also this is all documented extensively, like they had microphones on the whole time. You can actually go listen to the original audios from 1981. Okay. So how do we stop reincarnating over and over then? Well, real quick, I think it's important to understand what the main message of Ra actually is. Here's a quote from session 4. The law of one, though beyond the limitations of name, as you call vibratory sound complexes, may be approximated by stating that all things are one, that there is no polarity, there is no wrong, no right, no disharmony, but only identity. All is one, and that one is love light, or light/love, the infinite creator. So it's about everything being God. Kind of, but it's not a religious book at all. In the book, it actually says that it doesn't matter if you know about the book, The Law of One, and if you don't even know about what the Law of One actually is. That's fine. The only thing you need to do to move on is you need to love and be in service to others. Like get to heaven? Not in the traditional sense at all. In the Law of One philosophy, there are 7 major densities in our universe. Think of them as different thresholds that have been separated off, but they're just different vibrational pockets in which different bodies can exist. Another way to think about it is think about the ocean. When you go down in the ocean, you need to have a specific body in order to go far enough down. And so what the Law of One is saying, and what Ra is saying, is that you need to have different bodies for each density. And again, there's 7 of them. 7 major ones, that is. So then reincarnation is kind of like just playing the game of different bodies with different experiences. So how does loving others get you to a higher density? Well, according to what they're telling us, it's actually just math. If you're more than 50% in service to others, then you'll move on in the positive polarization from this 3rd density to 4th density. But there's also the option to move on negatively, which means you're according to law of one, 95% or more in service to yourself. So there really is negative entities.
You're not going to believe this. We have finally found an answer to what deja vu truly is. So when we sleep, our soul leaves our body. We're astral projecting, we're traveling around, doing all the fun things. And when that happens, there's times where we're shown different timelines for our human vessel. And at that time, our soul will pick one. Now, obviously, when we come back into our human body, we don't remember what we picked. So then when you're living it out and you have that deja vu moment, that's your human body experiencing what your soul has already seen. You're having like a little moment of remembrance.
Is reincarnation real? 4-year-old Billy Campbell told his parents that he had the soul of Princess Diana. He was born 18 years after her fatal car accident in 1997 and talked about being a princess before the sirens came. His dad said it all started when he saw a picture of Diana on a card that was given to his mom when he was 2 years old. And he said, "Look, it's me when I was a princess." His parents said they had no idea how he knew she was a princess because they keep no royal memorabilia around the house. And they've never talked about her while he was there. When he was 3 years old, he started referring to Prince William and Prince Harry as his sons. And he also knew details about Diana's older brother John, who died as a baby before Diana was born. His parents had no idea of this before till they looked online and found out she actually had an elder brother named John. In addition, he accurately described the interior of the Balmoral Castle, which is the Queen's holiday home in Scotland. The part that shocked his parents the most was when he saw a picture of Diana and said, "That was me as a princess, and one day the sirens came and I wasn't a princess anymore." 4 more.
When Noah was around 3 years old, I was driving and had my daughter with me, and he kept looking at me in the rearview mirror trying to get my attention. I was totally tuned out, totally ignoring him. I just thought he was being a kid because they'll say mom, mom, mom a dozen times. All of a sudden, my 3-year-old son glares at me in the mirror and he says, "Damn it, Hanny, listen to me." I had to pull over because my toddler just swore at me, and to hear that name come out of my son's mouth really shook me up.
I was at work and Trini called me and she was crying, and I said, "What is wrong?" And she said, "You're not going to believe what just happened."
The last time I heard someone call me Hanny would have been before my brother's passing.
No one else called her Hanny, not her friends, not her dad, not me. It was a name that Craig had for Trini and called her that.
My brother died in 1993 and Noah was born in 1998, so there's no way anyone would have told Noah what my nickname was as a child. Hanny! When he said, "Damn it, Hanny," it was crystal clear, his voice lowered, and it sounded a little spooky.
Listen to me.
The hard noises in the back of his throat, like guh, kuh, those things he could not say. So for him to actually make a sound with a guh in the back of his throat was very shocking to me.
Listen to me.
I don't even know what was going through my mind. I actually started to shake and I cried. And while I'm doing that, my daughter's in the back seat and she said, "Why are you calling mommy Hanny?" And he looked at her and he said, "Because she is Hanny." And he looked back at me and he said, "You know you're Hanny."
Clearly it was an emotional moment for her. I could hear it in her voice when she called me, but I did not think that there was a connection with his Uncle Craig at the moment.
I tried to explain the situation to her, and I think she was a little in disbelief at what I was saying, maybe because he did have poor speech, but I knew what I had heard.
There is no way that Noah could have known those words because we never talked about it.
When Noah was 3, I didn't think he had a concept of what death actually was, and I didn't feel it was appropriate to discuss with him how his uncle had died because it was somewhat violent. To hear that name come out of my son's mouth, it really shook me up, but I could have never predicted what happened next.
Matter of fact, it was almost like, well, duh, didn't you know? And that just knocked the wind out of me. In that moment, I thought, could he really be talking about a past life? Don't really know where to go with that. They don't really teach you that in parenting class, what to do when your child tells you about a past life experience. And I asked him, so when you fell off the roof, did it hurt? And he was like, yeah, it hurt. I fell off the roof and died. And I said, oh, okay, what did you see? And he said it was a lot of blood. It is hard to hear as a parent, your son talking about dying or remembering the trauma involved with a death. I mean, I don't know how that's going to affect him. I don't know if that's already affected him and I just wasn't aware.
I did not believe that Brennan had a past life. I didn't even think about reincarnation.
Here in the South, if you know, the Bible doesn't say it exists, it doesn't exist. I say, you know, just because it doesn't say it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So many things started to make sense for me. One fact was that he remembers falling and there being trauma to this side of his head.
I remember falling off of a house.
Brennan is convinced, and he will tell you.
I hit my head right here. That's why I have the hearing aid.
That's the reason I can't hear in my right ear, because when I died, I hurt my head on this side.
It's still something wrong with it.
The thing that made me think that Brennan did have a past life was the hearing thing. He can't hear in his right ear. My sister took him to the doctor. They don't know why he has hearing loss because everything is fine structurally with his ear. I'm like, okay, it is something.
Brennan would start giving me details about his other family and his other life. He told me that his dad looked kind of like his dad in this life, but he had a beard. You know, of course, his dad in this life doesn't have a beard.
My dad died kind of early when I was in my 40s.
At some point, Brennan mentioned that he believes he was born in Springfield. Recently, I've been doing some research, and I've come up with several different choices that I want to present to Brennan just to see if anything stands out. I'm excited about showing Brennan some possibilities, just to give us some closure or a place to start. You know that we were trying to figure out who you were when you were a grown man?
Yes.
I found a couple of things I want you to take a look at. You don't have to make up anything. If you remember, great. If you don't, that's okay too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want you to tell me the truth. If something stands out or if you remember something, just let me know. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So can you take a look at these and tell me if any of these names or any of these places sound familiar to you?
George Fred Douglas, that doesn't sound anything like mine.
Okay.
William Stanbaugh, no. James P. Patterson, City of Springfield.
Right?
Yeah. James P. Seth was born in 1902.
Mm-hmm. Does any of that sound familiar?
Yes. Not much is known about his upbringing other than the fact that he spent most of his life as in construction work.
When Brennan connected to one of the articles, it was a surprise for me because I wasn't sure if we would get anything. There were so many different articles, there were so many different stories.
James was working on the roof as a four-story
Dormitory.
When he lost his balance and fell 40 feet to his death.
Does that sound familiar to you at all? This is really happening. he's really connecting. It's still so surreal that it's a surprise, but I believe him.
It's it. It's it. Definitely that one.
Seven. 7. Mommy man. Oh. He is not slick.
Do you think about when you see this logo right here? Most people associate it with the movies. But see me, I associate it with the truth being hidden in plain sight like always. Let me tell y'all why. So a few years ago, I was listening to a lecture from Rashad Jamal, and he explained the theory behind deja vu and how it relates to this exact logo. Shout out to him because he broke it down so well. Also, peace to him and free him ASAP. Let me just say this. Don't come on my page with that negativity. However you feel about him, that's your business. One thing we can't take away from him is the information that he provided to us. As a truth teller myself, I already know the lengths that they will go to take somebody down that they don't want to speak anymore. That being said, the theory goes like this. The moon is a soul harvesting station. The reason why we see the boy sitting on the moon with his fishing rod is because he's fishing, but for our souls. Allegedly TikTok, this is just a theory. Okay, so you know how you have the phases of the moon, right? So the first phase will be the new moon where there's no light. It just looks black, right? So the new moon then turns into the waxing crescent. So there's some light there, but it's not completely full. And then it goes to the first quarter and so on and so forth. So as the moon's light is filling up, what's filling that moon's light in the theory is our energy, our soul's energy. Hence why it's called a soul harvesting station. And that's why we keep returning to this realm to keep doing this same shit over and over again, because we keep going to the light. It's supposed to go to the darkness from which we came from. I'm not the one that just take a theory and run with it because somebody says it though. I really have to sit there and analyze it and think about everything to put 2 and 2 together. Once I heard that theory, I'm like, let me look a little further into this. That's when I realized everything that I needed to know about the moon. If you've ever seen any of my previous moon videos, you will know exactly how I feel about the moon. Return to damn sender. Not even gonna go into full detail because I'll do that on another video about the moon. But just know, if it has the ability to control the ocean's tides, and we're made up of 70% of water, what do you think it's doing to your body internally? As above, so below. As within, so without. Whatever's happening externally happens internally. It also includes everything happening within nature, because remember, I am everything and everything is me. Now that we got to establish that it's pretty much eating up our energy until it comes to the full moon. Once it comes to the full moon, what happens during the full moon? People start acting lunatic. Shows you right there that the moon has an effect on our emotions some kind of way. Because of course, lunatic derives from lunar, which is moon. So yeah, like I said, return to sender. Anyway, that's the theory that resonates with me the most. Let me know y'all thoughts. Let me know your theories if yours is different from this one. As always, peace, love, and light, and gratitude for watching. That's why there's the theory that when you transcend to the next realm, that you go towards the light, and that will be the moonlight.
Do you believe in reincarnation?
Yes.
There's this crazy fucking story of this kid, right? Him and his mom go to the doctor for a checkup, right?
Yeah.
But while they're there, his mom's scrolling through these magazines that they have normally at the doctor's office. She saw this monastery, right? The kid notices that monastery, and he just starts staring at the page. And then he was like, I used to live there. And she was like, no, you lived with me your whole life. And so she was like, what'd you used to do there? Shit you not, word for word. He describes how they used to live.
Oh shit.
He goes, I used to plant crops as a farmer. Mind you, this was his first couple of sentences.
What if it isn't reincarnation?
Imagine if that's what deja vu is, bro.
People who have reincarnated on this earth many times are old souls who have been through many past lives. Your dreams hold keys from the spiritual realm that are able to tell you about your past life. And kids experience so much past life regression because their souls are so connected to the spiritual realm. You have an entire lineage of spiritual ancestry that has nothing to do with your DNA. These ancestors live in your spirit and are often giving you wisdom through the form of your intuition. And this is why you might feel connected to a place or an environment that you've never been to before. Your soul will choose to incarnate back on this earth to learn a lesson that you did not learn in your past life. And each incarnation that you've experienced have all been with the purpose of elevating your soul to be able to connect back with Source. Our planet is merely a school for souls to refine themselves spiritually until it is time for them to ascend.
And God is just trying to experience what it created. So in order to experience what it created, God had to create itself a body, and you are the embodiment of God itself. Consciousness needs to experience what it created, so it created you and I. So now we're going around experiencing and downloading and learning and remembering things, and then we transition and we take this information back to the source. And then once it gets that information, we reincarnate and come through the spiritual ancestral umbilical cord. And then now we downloading more information again. And each time we are experiencing reality with a new perception or with a new personality, which makes the information in different variables. You see that? And that's how the actual consciousness learn and to expand through you. So never, when we look at God, we say that God is all knowing. We say that God is, omnipotent, omnipresent. What I believe that. But the knowing come from its creation. See that the knowing, God is expanding and God is learning and knowing what it created and how to experience its creation through you living. And a lot of y'all are not living because your diet is stopping you from experiencing. Your diet is stopping you from living. A lot of y'all are not living and traveling because the neighborhoods you in got gangbangers and you can't go 2 blocks over or you'll be murdered. A lot of y'all are not living and experiencing because you have never been on a plane. You're afraid. You're scared to fly. You're scared of water. You're scared to get on a boat. A lot of y'all are in hospitals, can't eat certain things. Pancreas is messed up. A lot of us have been put into a simulation. And when you really start looking at, culture, and this is the reason why we have to reinvent our culture, because culture is created for problem solving, right? If you look at the root word for culture, it comes from cultivation. Cultivation is what you do to a land. So you cannot have a culture without a land because you have to cultivate that land. So essentially a culture means growth. So how can you say we doing this for the culture or we are part of the African culture, and the African culture is not growing, or the indigenous African culture, whatever y'all want to identify with, it's not growing and not expanding. If you're not growing and you're not expanding, that means that you're not utilizing the knowledge or the information that you're experiencing because you're experiencing the wrong information. And then we talk about consciousness all the time, how we need to revamp the consciousness of indigenous African people. Well, consciousness actually comes from the word knowing. Knowing comes from the word knowledge. Knowledge means to know the ledge. That means you have a logical brain and you have your creative brain that thinks in the balance of my eye. So if I step off this building, gravity is going to make me bust my head and die. So I know the ledge, meaning I have knowledge. Now, once you have knowledge and you apply this and you step away from the ledge, that means you realize that it had a wide dome. This is where you get the word wisdom from. So with the application of knowledge, you gain wisdom. You only can gain wisdom by the application of knowledge, but you can't know anything that if you don't have conscious. You have to be. That's what conscious means. It means to know. Well, if your consciousness has been hijacked and you have been fed a false consciousness, if your whole consciousness has been falsified, they lied in the history books. They gave you a falsified history, an artificial history. They're lying in the music. They're giving you an artificial reality in the music. They lying on the televisions. They feeding you fear to ignite your adrenal glands, to pump adrenochrome in you, for you can be in a state of fight or flight. So now you're living through fear. You have all these stress-related diseases. The air you breathe is full of acids. They got all types of chemicals inside of your clothes. They got chemicals in your toothpaste. You eating GMO foods. You listening to GMO music. Everything that they're giving you is to overthrow your consciousness, and they're injecting their own consciousness and information into you. So if you constantly living that out, then that means you are totally unaware of who you truly are. And that brings us back to the identity crisis, because if you know who you are, and we're talking about nation building, I'm not talking about individuality. There's no such thing as that. Everything is social. Everything is systematic. There's no such thing as individuality, or I'm an independent man or independent woman. You are your group. Your group is your tribe. Your tribe is your culture.
The body you occupied in your past life is buried somewhere.
You want to know something else that will probably mess you up when it comes to reincarnation? Some of your family members probably unalived you in a past life. And the reason they incarnated back into your life this current go around is because your soul contract requires you to forgive a karmic debt. Oh yeah, there's a reason you pick your parents and the partners in your life. The universe has a unique way of reminding us of unhealed trauma. Identifying these past life traumas typically requires self-reflection and observing repeated patterns or emotions that appear unexplained in this current life. This could be dreams, sudden emotional triggers, unexplained fears, or a strong connection to a certain time period or location. Working with a regressive hypnotherapist might offer insight into these traumas. I just finished writing a book, and one of the chapters involves my own personal past life regression story. For those of you all who don't know me, my name is Marco J. Williams, and I am the author of How to Listen to the Universe Ether Downloads. If you're interested in learning more about reincarnation, soul contracts, and entering the Akashic records, I highly suggest you check it out.
You don't have to if you don't want to, Liz.
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to. Alright, I'm gonna do it. Fuck it. I ain't no bitch.